Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about how to study for science classes, and I'm going to try to make this video shorter than my other videos because I feel like I tend to ramble a lot. So let's get started. So for your science classes or for any class, I think all these tips will be really helpful. The first thing that I recommend is that you pre-read before you go to your class. And so what does pre-reading mean? Pre-reading doesn't mean that you literally have to memorize everything before you go to class. Pre-reading is just taking a few minutes, I would say maximum of 20 minutes, to glance over the lecture material before it's presented to you. So that way, like when you actually see it in lecture, it should make more sense instead of you sitting there like being confused with the terminology. So I would take no more than like 20 minutes to glance over PowerPoint slides your teacher provides you. If your teacher doesn't give you the PowerPoint slides beforehand, if they give you a handout, look over that. And if they don't give you any sort of reference material before you go to class, which is really rare, then I would skim through your textbook for that specific section. So for example, if you know on your class syllabus that tomorrow my lecture is going to be on glycolysis, you can go to your textbook and look in the glycolysis section and just to kind of skim read it, flip through the pages, get yourself familiar with the material before you actually see it in class. And if you don't have a textbook, then Google is your best friend. So you can literally Google anything and you'll get little summaries for it. So I think that would be another good way for you to get familiar with the topic. And this period, pre-reading period, is not for extensive studying. This is just to get familiar with the material, and also like you don't want to like look at the wrong material. You just want to get a brief summary of what you're supposed to expect in your class. And the next thing is actually going to class. So going to class, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to be paying attention in class. So try your best to actually pay attention to what your teacher is saying. And one really good way to kind of engage yourself with the material is asking questions in class. That way the teacher knows that like you're interested, and that way it kind of keeps you accountable to stay awake and participate in class and pay attention to what the teacher is saying. And this second tip that I have on here, which I think is like a golden tip that someone gave me when I was starting college, is to record lectures. And why this is helpful is for me, like I'm an auditory learner. So for me, like after I would have the class, I would listen to all of my lectures, and that would be one way for me to review the lecture too, but also to kind of add to my notes if I missed anything in class. So I would highly, highly recommend that you record your class lectures. And also this way, like if you miss anything in class, if you kind of zone out while the teacher was talking about a certain topic, you can just go back in your recording and listen to that. So definitely that tip really, really helped me a lot in college. So once you come back after your class, what you want to do is you want to study that material the same day. So you go to class, you pay attention, you're going to come back, take a quick break, take a lunch break, just take a break, eat something, relax, and then go over that material again, because for me, repetition was key for me to remembering information. So the more you look over certain material, the more likely you're going to be able to remember it. And so after class, just come back and look over that lecture. And if there are certain spaces that you kind of are not comfortable with, or that you don't really understand what's going on, then you have that recording that you did earlier in the day to refer back to. And that way it makes your studying really effective, and also studying that material the same day is going to make you remember it more. And since you study it that day, it doesn't mean that you need to just that's it and you just take the test. You need to be going over that material every day to be able to remember it. And so what I recommend is that when you're going through that material again, Make condensed notes. Have a notebook where you maybe bullet point the most important topics that the teacher went over. And this is really what you want to focus on is high yield content. The things that you think your teacher is most likely to ask you. Maybe she said in class that, like there's going to be a question like this on the exam. So that's what you want to focus on. Make these notes and specifically make note of the things that you don't know. If there's a certain pathway that you need to memorize that you don't know, like write it down, make sure you know that. And write it down a couple of times. But for test day, I think the most important thing is to have these condensed notes for reference. So like right before the exam, like in the morning, you can go over these notes, you can highlight to make sure that, the things that you don't know, you know them as well. And another thing that if you have time to do this, practice questions. First of all, I would do all of the practice your teacher gives. I know especially for classes like organic chemistry, even general chemistry, biochemistry, my teacher would give me a lot of practice material, and more likely those practice materials, those same type of questions would be on our exam. So that's why it is so important to do all of your teacher's practice that they give you. And once you've done all of that practice, or let's say your teacher doesn't provide you with any practice questions, just Google. Again, Google is your best friend. Online, there's so many good resources. There's Quizlets. If you just search a topic and you search practice questions, I'm sure you can find practice questions. And even your textbook, if you bought the textbook for your class, they have practice questions at the end of each section usually. So that's really a good way for you to make sure that you recall the information. So the first half that I was talking about was how to remember the information, studying the information, and practicing questions really make sure that you're able to recall that information, which is what you have to do on your test. So this was just a brief summary of how to study for science classes and really for any other classes as well. I hope you found these tips really helpful. Please share it with your friends. And if you like my material, please subscribe and comment if you'd like to see any other videos.